If you've listened to my past Delphi videos, you'll know I'm a big fan of Kevin and Anya from the Murder Sheet. They've done some great work, gotten us vital information, given us great insight into the investigation on what happened and why it happened. Some of the information that they've got helped kind of put pressure on this case and pressure on some of the people that we believe to be involved. It also helped potentially prime a jury pool a little bit, which I'm all for. But I do wonder, have they gone too far with the stuff they released last Thursday? And might that be harmful to law enforcement? And does it jeopardise this case? Like, I was getting worried a few weeks back, as it's been 8-9 months since Tony's home was raided, and we haven't seen anything really. We've had some old documents released, but we don't have anything new, nothing fresh. In August last month, we found out that Kegan's court date for his CP charges was pushed forward again for the umpteenth time. That's not unusual for Kegan's case to be pushed down the road for the CP charges. But it came out in the documents that, yes, he is negotiating / cooperating basically with law enforcement. On what? We don't know. But people were hopeful it was Delphi because we need something. We need that big domino to fall, a confession of sorts or something to tie people to the scene. But this time we also learned from another document released that Kegan was handed over for 1 day custody from Miami County Jail to the Indiana State Police. Why was he handed over? A lot of speculation was he was shown them areas. He was handed over for an interview of sorts. Couple of days later, Wabash River is getting searched, and it's very easy to put all that stuff together. 1 week later, I think at the start of September, the Country Club Road cousin, I think his name is out there now, but he was picked up on an outstanding warrant and taken in. Now, this warrant was outstanding for a while, but they could have taken him in at any time. It's just very interesting they chose to take him in now. So it's not rocket science. Nobody thought any of this was a coincidence. We can all pretty much read between the lines, and it's good to see that there's movement in the case. There's fresh stuff happening. And obviously we were all wondering, has Kegan flipped? Is he finally telling some truth? Has he given some vital info? Is he the cause of that search? And if he is, it's interesting that they believe him, or at very least thrown so much weight behind that search. Because there was 10 to 12 people searching. The search was over a month. They were all staying in a hotel. Like, you could be talking 50 to 100 grand. The cost of that search was huge. They must have been confident that they would find something. They must have been a bit confident about the information that they had. But we still didn't know if that big domino was going to fall. Something to tie them to Delphi, to tie them to the crime scene. We didn't know at the time that Kegan has actually put himself there, but at very least you have to believe that the search is looking for something physical to tie back. I don't think it's going to be a trophy. That's something that wouldn't be discarded like that, so more than likely a murder weapon. I don't think that was too much of a leap for us all to make, and that's key. That's such a key. That's probably the biggest thing in this case that we've had. It's so important that they find that, and the search went on for a month. And in the last few days, it seems like it's ended. Some people are saying it has. Some people are saying that it hasn't. It looks like they did find something of interest to them. Was it what they were looking for? I don't know. Everything they find, even the smallest little thing that might be related, will have to be sent. It will have to be analysed in a lab. But it seems like they're hopeful. And the feeling is confidence that they have what they went to get. It's so important. It's so vital in this case if they did find something. And that's where we were. Everyone was waiting, wondering how long it's going to take to be analysed and write the paperwork up and what's needed for the next steps. There was some calculated speculation made. We didn't know what Kegan said, but he's a liar anyway, so how much of it can be trusted? Maybe he sent them on a merry-go-round, who knows? And then last week, Anya and Kevin at the Murder Sheet released a bombshell. A piece of information on what Kegan said, and that's it. That's the first domino to fall, has already gone. I don't for a second believe Kegan is telling 100% of the truth. He's incapable of it. But he told them he was there the day the girls were killed, waiting in a red Jeep while someone else committed the murder. He's not saying he was at home. He's not saying he was at Club Country Road where his phone was pinging. He was there. And that's the biggest thing we've had in this case. Keegan was there. He has implicated at least one other person, believed to be obviously Tony. Keegan was waiting in a red Jeep. Tony has a red Jeep. It's not too hard to figure out. But it's stunning news and incredible that the murder sheet got this information, and seems like we're able to verify it also. But I think they may have gone too early with this information. What good did it do us? If there was something thrown in the Wabash River, then as soon as they started searching, Tony will obviously know that Keegan has fully turned. So I don't think it's a case of Tony suddenly found out last Thursday because of the murder sheet that Keegan has turned. I think he already knew. Keegan is looking for money. He's going a bit hungry, it seems. It looks like he's been cut off. And remember, Tony's place was raided last November. So he probably knew then that Keegan was talking. They had to have something for the search warrant affidavit. I would expect that came from Keegan. And I get that people were concerned that this news that came out last Thursday tipped off Tony. Like maybe he knows where the trophies are and will try to destroy them. But Tony already knew Keegan was talking, probably since last November, and definitely since the start of that search. Of course he did. But then there's Keegan. And I'm not one to worry about whether he lives or dies, but we need him alive for a while yet. If he's in general population, then I guess there's a risk of an inmate will hear about this and try to get to Keegan. If Keegan was killed, this case is going to struggle. But remember what charges he's in there for. He's in there for vile, disgusting CP charges, so there's already a target on his back for that. But the last one, and the most dangerous one, I think is the investigation. Did this mess with the action plan, with the time frame? Did this put pressure on the LE to get that analysed fast? And I think it does. I think it does put a bit of unnecessary pressure. If they did find something, it's going to take a few weeks to process and analyse, and I don't want them rushing this paperwork. I just want it to be right. Like, for a long time in this case, we were going nowhere. We were all frustrated that it was taking so long, but I don't care anymore. I don't care if it's another few weeks, another few months. As long as the right people are convicted and Delphi gets some justice for the girls, I don't care. Thursday is an unusual day for the Murder Sheet to release a podcast, and speculation is that they released it on Thursday because they thought an arrest was imminent and they wanted to get this out there beforehand. I hope that's not the case. It just feels very unnecessary. Like, people deep in this case would already have been able to put two and two together. It confirms what many of us were speculating, but I'm not so sure this was responsible to put this information out there at this time. My unrealistic hope for this case is that there's so much evidence that we get a full confession and a guilty plea. That's not going to happen. I don't think the evidence is anywhere near strong enough for that, but I would love it for the family of the girls that they didn't have to go through a trial. I don't need crime scene details blasted out there. I don't want to see Kelsey on the stand talking about dropping the girls off. I don't want the Netflix adaptation in 5 years' time that will follow. I just want the right people caught for this. And when this does go to trial, it's going to be crazy. I think a good defence team would definitely fancy their chances. They can point to two alternative suspects. One of them is dead. This is going to have to be a very strong case. If this jury pool came from YouTube, there's no chance of conviction. I don't care what kind of evidence they have. A lot of lunatics follow this case online. From what I can see though, talking to a few people in the comments and from Peru and Delphi and people in Indiana itself, they seem very clued into this case. It haunts them. They want it resolved, and they also want the right people. I'm not really worried about this case being too complicated for a jury. I think we'll be okay. But hang tight, we're waiting 5 years. Another couple of days, couple of weeks isn't going to make much difference. People are, like myself, very invested in this case. I was going back reading some comments today about the newest search, what people were saying when it was going on, and people are nervous wrecks over it. Just really anxious about the search because they know, people who are into this case know how important that is. And like, if we feel like that, can you imagine what the family of the girls are going through at the moment? Everyone was kind of blown away when Murder Sheet released that a couple of days ago, and then sure enough we get this false report that Tony has been arrested. And I bought it too. I seen all the commotion until you realise about an hour later that this is all coming from one dodgy source. And Kelsey tweeted, she was talking about it. She basically saying, think of the harm that this type of stuff causes to families. And as soon as there's an arrest, Ellie and the family will be more than happy to update people. But all this came kind of out of the hysteria that was there last week. That's no doubt going to be there in the future in this case also. And with the murder sheet and Anya and Kevin, I'm very worried that how close they seem to be getting to the line of jeopardizing this case. They talked about how Kegan was taken to an airbase because they were so worried about this information getting out there. What gives you the right to put this information out there? So, like, I'm a fan of the work they do. I'm a fan of the podcast, but this was the first time I was uncomfortable listening to something because I was worried that it was jeopardizing the case. I just thought it was unnecessary to put it out now. And of course, then in the podcast, you get Hello Fresh, Best Fiends. Don't get me wrong, everyone deserves to be paid for the work they do. And it's something I struggle with myself, but I feel like there's a thin line between being paid for the work you do and monetizing a tragic situation. I don't think they are, but I hope they're not influenced by the reach that they now have and cashing in on it. Like, above all else, anyone who cares about this case has to put the girls first. And when you look at the pros and the cons of releasing that info last week, for me, it seems like you have to go on the side of caution. The cons definitely outweigh the pros. Let me know what you think. Do you think it was okay? It was good that they put this information out there last week? That it was something that we needed right now? Or do you think that it's potentially jeopardizing the case, putting unnecessary pressure on people who are processing evidence at the moment? And can you give me reasons why it's good or why it's bad? Good luck. God bless. I hope today is the day.